Normally, I would do a paid post on this audio, but since I'm trying to grow this and trying to promote it and wanting to get people to comment, I'm experimenting with how these posts go out, be it a video that I did a while back or regular posts. I'm gonna try audio. Granted, I don't like how I sound, but I'm also too lazy to write right now. But anyway, I want to focus on a few things here that really is kind of important. Number one is the Hamas Israel ceasefire deal that everyone's been talking about, everyone's been praising, but is not officially a done deal yet. That is up to Netanyahu right now and the head of Hamas and over there to work out the final details of that. The other issue is that Donald Trump is actually taking credit for getting the deal done. And everyone is believing, and there are people who are believing it. The problem is that Donald Trump had nothing to do with the deal. And as Joe Biden said in his farewell address last night, that it was his team that negotiated the deal, and that Donald Trump is going to have to honor the terms of the deal negotiated. That being said, we all know that Donald Trump can't be trusted and that he could actually change the terms of the deal at a moment's notice and basically messing up the deal because he wants to do it on his own terms so that he can actually indeed get the credit for it. I wouldn't be surprised if he does that, but it may end up triggering killing the ceasefire deal that was negotiated on in good faith. And you have to understand that what they're doing is that when I made a comment about it, is that when people were calling me out for crediting Joe Biden on that, and I'm like, where was he till now that it's convenient that he made this deal 5 days before he's leaving office? So my response to that was, well, you don't know what you're talking about because you have no idea how long it takes to negotiate. You have no concept of what's involved in a negotiation. For all you know, this negotiation has been going on for the last 3 months or a year. You have absolutely no idea. Do you really think the president of the United States or anybody in his administration is going to say, yes, we're negotiating? Stay tuned? No, you never do that for a couple of reasons. One is the negotiation could fall apart at any time, so you don't want to get people's hopes up. Number two, you don't want to make it public for fear of interfering. And number three, it's all very complicated, especially when there are over 100 hostages involved. And not just Americans or Israelis, it's Israel holding Palestinian hostages as well. So people who are in the cult, who follow Trump or Republicans, you don't assume things. You don't know how negotiating tactics work, and neither do I. But because you are taught to hate Joe Biden, um, you're going to say that why couldn't he get this done sooner? Why is it convenient that he's doing it now? It just happens to be that they came to a deal yesterday at that point in time. But for all you know, they could have been negotiating for a year, for 6 months. You have absolutely no idea. Most of it is classified information. So the fact that you're doing that and trying to give credit where it's not due is just wrong. And the fact that you're criticizing the Biden administration for making the deal now and accusing them that they couldn't, then why didn't they do it till, and questioning why they couldn't do it until earlier is wrong because you have no idea what they were doing. Yeah, you have no idea what they were doing. For all intents and purposes, they could have been negotiating for the last 2 years, 6 months. You have no idea. You don't know if there were any secret trips that were happening back and forth or secret meetings that were happening. You have absolutely no idea. So unless you know, why do you comment? The same thing with Donald Trump. And he's right away. He writes in big right away. He's getting ready to say, "I'm taking credit because I got the deal done." No, you didn't get the deal done. And Joe Biden made it a point to say that in his farewell address last night. And by the way, speaking of Donald Trump, Joe Biden was on point when he said there is an oligarchy taking shape in the next administration. He's not wrong. He was basically warning the American people, and rightly so, that the next administration is going to change everything. And we've already seen that with purges that are happening. Loyalists. You've been watching the confirmation hearings. The Democrats have not been happy with a lot of the answers they've been getting from the nominees. And I've been watching these hearings as well. And it turns out Republicans are so happy and giddy that if they're going to confirm every single person that they've already met, these hearings are essentially a waste of time. They're only being done because they are required to happen. That's the only reason. But Republicans have already made up their mind. They've already said, we are going to confirm you. We don't care what the Democrats say. We are going to confirm you. We don't care if you're qualified or not, but we don't want to piss off the big man. That's basically not how you confirm somebody, but that's essentially what is happening here. And it's begun. Donald Trump got upset that he wanted that he was upset because the flags were going to have staff because of an executive order. He demanded they should be risen at full staff for his inauguration because it's always about him. What happened? Republican governors, not surprisingly, caved to his demand. So not only are these governors breaking the law, but they're also disrespecting and dishonoring a president. And also an executive order. Because the big man said, we need the flags and full staff because it's my inauguration. Newsflash. It's not about you. No president has ever said we need the flags at half staff because of that. Although interestingly enough, Gavin Newsom decided his state's going to have it at full staff too. So, and he's a Democrat. So I'm actually not sure what that reasoning is, considering that they're having a hard time. But I thought that the farewell address from Joe Biden was articulate, right on point, and basically saying thank you to the American people for allowing him the pleasure of serving for 50 years as a public official. Now, I am too young to remember that Joe Biden was a senator, so I don't know what he's done for most of that. But as a president, I can say he did a lot. And he had a hard time when he first came in. He did have a hard time because it was basically right after the pandemic was over. Donald Trump had just been president. He basically had to fix everything that Donald Trump messed up. He had to work with the pandemic situations. The vaccines were just coming out. And I give him credit where credit is due because it wasn't that easy. It wasn't easy, and I don't envy him. And so you got to give him credit because he came in with a huge mess. The pandemic hit, and really, it was all basically all a big mishmash, and it was an impossible task. And Joe Biden did that. And I was watching Lawrence O'Donnell last night, and he was comparing the speech that Joe Biden gave with the one that Eisenhower gave for the farewell. And they were actually very eerily similar in tone and contrast. You have to remember that in the 60s, we were in the middle of the Cold War and communism, and it was a different world back then, probably worse then than it is now. So history does repeat. So we're seeing that now, and we have another Cold War now? No. But Joe Biden was basically warning the American people, you voted, this is the man who you voted for, and it's very dangerous, and we need to be careful, and we can't let America be lost to an oligarchy, to authoritarianism, to fascism. And he was right. And his speech, as not surprisingly, got ripped to shreds by the people at Fox. And I don't even call them news anymore, but at Fox, and a lot of the right wingers on Twitter, uh, you know, Charlie Cook, Elon Musk, the usual people. And not surprisingly, they basically called Joe Biden a liar. But here's the irony on this whole thing. Donald Trump does the exact same thing that he accuses Democrats of, that he accuses Joe Biden of, and he's doing the same thing. And what are people doing? They're saying Trump is great. Trump is doing what he needs to do to make America great again. And Joe Biden does it. They're like, F Joe Biden, F Brandon, he has dementia. It's never ending pattern. And by the way, if he had dementia, he did have a clean bill of health. And no doctor is going to fudge a medical report only to lose their license because of that. If he really had dementia, they would have invoked the 25th Amendment a long time ago. Because a medical report would say that yes, he's suffering from early bouts of dementia and he's not fit to serve. Then they would invoke the 25th. Just because someone says you have dementia doesn't mean you have dementia. Okay, just because Donald Trump says, yeah, Joe Biden has dementia or he's Sleepy Joe doesn't mean it's true. Do you think that Donald Trump is in the perfect shape as it is? No. Donald Trump is just as old as Joe Biden is. That doesn't mean that Donald Trump is a healthy specimen either. Keep in mind, we haven't seen his medical report, so we have no idea what kind of shape he's in. But I can assure you that Joe Biden doesn't eat uh, a lot of burgers or have a diet Pepsi with a red button attached to his desk, so they can have it anytime he wants. I can guarantee you that's not happening. I had a question asked to me yesterday when I posted on my Facebook thanking Joe Biden for his service, 50 years. He had integrity and moral. And people started laughing and trying to justify that he didn't because for whatever reason. And somebody had asked me, I'm trying to remember the question. Somebody asked me, why didn't Joe Biden drop out of the race if he wanted to run again? And I was like, you have to ask him. They said, I'm asking you. I said, I don't know why, but I'm sure if you Google it, you will find the answer to which you seek. But of course, they said, well, because he has dementia and he's sleeping and he's a sleepy Joe. I said, you asked me a question. I said, I don't know. I answered you and said, Google the answer. So why are you making up things you do not know? Didn't Are you saying he dropped out because he knew he couldn't win? That could be. I don't know. But here's the thing: everybody thought that Kamala would win too, but people bought into the smear campaign. People bought into the lies, and people. fell for the con where he said, I can lower your grocery prices. And that's what people were concerned about because they were paying $10 for eggs. And when Donald Trump said, I'll lower your grocery prices, that's when everybody else who supported him said, yes, he'll lower your eggs. Then posted pictures about eggs under Biden, eggs under Trump. You know what? There was no, I can make up those numbers too. Without a source, I can make those numbers too. And you know what? He said, yeah, I can't do it. I can't lower them. Well, no shit, Sherlock. I could have told you that. How is the president going to lower groceries? It's not how it works. Donald Trump has no clue how a government works. Donald Trump has no idea how the economy works. And this is a man who supposedly went to Wharton, which is a top-notch business school. So I don't know. If somebody went to Wharton, you should know how A, B, and C works, not CBA, you know? Um, um, so yeah, Joe Biden had the integrity of the reason I say he has integrity was he bowed out. When they had these private conversations that I was not privy to and neither was anybody else. So the answer is I don't know, because I don't know. I don't know. And I'm not going to make up some answer just to satisfy a base. I don't know of any other person who would drop out because it's in the best interest of the American people. Would he have won? Would he have won re-election if he stayed in the race? I don't know. It's possible. People did want a rematch of Trump versus Biden again. They did. I know I did. I would have voted for Biden, but would he have won again had he stayed in the race? We'll never know. And honestly, there is no way to know that. But he had the integrity to put the American people first and be honest and say, I don't know if I can come back from this disaster of a debate. I don't know if I have it in me anymore. I'm going to do the honorable thing and do what's right. And he did, and I respect him for that. Would Donald Trump do that? Absolutely not. Which brings me to point number two. He is not a president. He is, how he says Republicans are rhinos, Republican in name only? Well, I made up a new word. He's a Pinot, a president in name only. He doesn't want to be president. He doesn't know the first clue about being a president. First of all, number one, he's not acting presidential. That's number one. Number two, he's not acting like a leader. And number three, he's always angry and whatnot and things like that. And you know what? It doesn't matter what you think of anybody. Be presidential. Um, be presidential. You don't have to say everything that comes into your head. You don't have to always. As a leader, you take responsibility. You take responsibility and you own your mistake. You didn't take credit for a negotiating peace deal. Own that and say, yeah, I didn't. Blaming the Afghanistan thing on Joe Biden. He was actually finishing the work that Donald Trump started. Not many people know this, or they fail to want to understand it. The disaster that was in Afghanistan was because Donald Trump started the process by signing the deal and saying, we will have you out by a certain time. Unfortunately, his term was over and he couldn't finish the deal. So Joe Biden had to do what Donald Trump started. Can Donald Trump say that if he was still president and he got the troops out of Afghanistan, it wouldn't have been a disaster? No. No. He can't say that because he doesn't know. And there's no way to know that. Can he say for certain that if I was the president, the Ukraine thing would never have happened? No, he can't say that because he doesn't know. Can he say the Hamas war in Israel would never have happened? No, he can't say that because if the Israelis, whose IDF and Mossad are one of the greatest intelligence agencies in the world, and their armies, bar none, if none of them knew about the surprise attack, then how could Donald Trump have known about it? There would absolutely no way. Did it have to happen? I don't know. I don't know. But as a Jewish person who has family there, I can say for certain that it's always going to be ongoing. Okay, wars in Israel are inevitable. They will always happen. They've happened day one, and they're going to happen from day till the end of time. It's the same thing with anti-Semitism. People hated the Jews from day one, and they're always going to hate Jews. They'll always blame the Jews for something. There's nothing to fix on that end. Okay, people are taught to hate, and people are taught to hate certain people or certain religions or whatnot. There's nothing you can do. So when Donald Trump says this wouldn't have happened, it's like he's being a big shot. He's basically trying to manipulate you by saying, "Yes, I can do it. Just vote for me, have faith in me, and I'll do it." A leader leads, and the farewell address that Joe Biden gave last night was the true leader. I don't care what you think of him from the last 4 years. He came in. Honestly, he came in uh, with a lot on his plate that he had to deal with. It wasn't easy. And people don't realize. People only see what the White House wants you to see, and they go based on that. But they don't know what's going on behind the scenes. They don't know what's going on inside the situation. They don't know what's going on behind the closed doors of the Congress or the Department of Defense or Secretary of State. They don't know. We only see what they put out there, what they want us to see. So when you say that, okay, why isn't anybody complaining about Congress wasting taxpayers' money on sham elections and on nonsense bills instead of doing the job, they're supposed to be doing, the job that they swore to do, and the job that they were elected to do, that their constituents put into office because they trust them? Why is anybody complaining about this? Why is it only you're criticizing Joe Biden, but you're not criticizing anything that Donald Trump does? Because you think he's God's gift to humanity. You can't have it both ways. You either like what he's doing or you don't like what he's doing. You can't say Joe Biden was the worst president ever in the United States and not think there's anything good in him. You remember that the entire 4 years, Joe Biden did nothing wrong. I mean, he did nothing good. You mean to tell me that in all the 4 years that Joe Biden was president, nothing he did was good? Now, are you saying that because you've been telling, because Donald Trump tells you this, because Donald Trump is telling you that, so you're repeating what he's saying? Are you saying it because right wingers are saying it on their podcast, so you're believing them, or is it because you like Trump, so you're working with that? What exactly is it about? Are you saying that everything that Donald Trump did was great? Are you saying that he's the greatest president ever? Because history thinks otherwise. Historians have said he's the worst president. He's one of the worst presidents we ever had. So is it that he's the greatest president we ever had, or is he the worst president we ever had? Because it can't be both. I mean, I don't think he's the greatest president out there. I think one of the greatest presidents out there was Lincoln, Washington, Jefferson, among others. Do I think he's the worst president? I think he's one of the worst presidents, yes. That would probably go up there with, say, um, well, I don't know. I can't think of it right now. But that farewell address was basically Joe Biden saying, listing his accomplishments he did over the 50 years in Congress, the 4 years he was as president, thanking the American people, and then warning us about what lies ahead in the next 4 years. People need to accept that. People need to accept the fact that Joe Biden was the president. Love him or hate him, he did a lot of good for this country. Agree with it or not is irrelevant. Every president is going to have something that they do that they're going to be criticized for. That is a fact. Every president is going to do something where they're going to get criticized. That is a fact. But you can't say a president is a perfect president and did absolutely nothing wrong, because that is not happening. Every president. Now, I'm not saying that Washington didn't do anything wrong, or John F. Kennedy, or say Ronald Reagan or Bill Clinton. I'm not going to say that they were great presidents either. But they all have faults. We're all human. So if you're going to criticize one, you're going to have to criticize everybody. You can't just say that everything that Donald Trump says is great. He said, "I have a plan I have a medical plan." Okay, where is it? I have a plan to bring grocery prices down. Where is your plan? I have a plan how to cut taxes. Okay, where is your plan? I have a concept of a plan. Well, that means you have a blueprint. Where is the blueprint? You all believe him, but you all don't want proof. Joe Biden says it, shows you the plan, and y'all don't. Well, and you still and you laugh and say, "This can't be right." You're accusing Joe Biden of letting out pardoning murderers and rapists. But here's the thing, and he addressed this in his farewell address last night. Here's the thing. Number one, do you know what goes into pardoning somebody? No. Do you know the process? No. Do you know what constitutes a pardon? No. So why are you complaining about who he's pardoning when you have no idea how the process works? Because I can guarantee that if Donald Trump pardoned the same exact people, you'd have no problem with it. And then people are complaining that he went back on his word with Hunter Biden when he said he was going to pardon his son, and then he did. But I'll tell you why. Here's the truth. And he explained the reasoning as to why he went back on his word. Because he knew that if he did not pardon Hunter Biden, the Trump administration would make his life a living hell and use him as an example. And Joe Biden, as a father, didn't want to put his son through that unnecessarily. And so he did what he had to do as a father to protect his son from being humiliated and embarrassed. And if you're a father, you will probably understand that. I am not a father, but I do understand it. And um, Donald Trump says he wants to pardon the January 6 people. And you all have no problem with that whatsoever, which is a hypocritical double standard. What you're saying is Joe Biden is pardoning murders and rapists, yet you have a felon, yet you have a convicted felon that's going to be the president. You're saying it's not true. You're going to have a rapist in the office. It's not true. You're going to have a sex offender as the president. That is not true. So everybody is lying but Donald Trump, right? So all these court cases are made up court cases to try to bring him down. Is that what they're saying? So January 6th didn't happen. So these are hostages, right? Ashley Babbitt died for no reason, right? Or it was some sort of Democratic ploy to blame it on Republicans, right? No. you try to overthrow the government and have a coup, um, you're going to suffer for that. That's a federal crime. You're basically trying to overthrow the government to keep somebody in power based off a lie that they said, which he lost the election fair and square. The fact that you don't accept it is irrelevant. You overthrow the government, you break into federal property, you go in, you trespass in federal into federal property, going to into senator and congressmen's offices and sit down. That's trespassing on private property, federal property, ransacking, and Donald Trump is going to pardon it. And people are like, they shouldn't have been put into jail in the first place. That is kind of hypocritical. So you're saying that murderers and rapists should be in jail, but people who are violent, who wanted to hang Mike Pence on the gallows, and violently stormed a Capitol, that's okay. And that's okay because January 6th didn't happen. But people like Liz Cheney are traitors for what they did, and then they destroyed the evidence. Well, I don't know about you, but if they destroy the evidence, how come the book is selling on Barnes and Nobles for $18.95? Why is it a bestseller on Amazon? If it doesn't exist, how am I downloading it to my phone? How are they reading it on the news? How is it available in a library if they destroyed the evidence? What do they do? Just write up a whole. I mean, did Cassidy Hutchinson not write a book about it? Were there not eyewitnesses? You could try to rewrite history whatever in any way you want, in any way, shape, or form, but that doesn't change the fact that it happened. You can rewrite history. You can whitewash history. You can rewrite history. You can do whatever you want with history. You can shit on it and say it didn't happen, but it did happen. No matter what you're told, no matter what you see, no matter what you try to do, it happened. Rewriting it just means you're in denial and you're falling for a scam. That's just it. Rewriting it means you're in denial and you can't face the facts because you've been brainwashed or manipulated to believe otherwise. So think very carefully that if someone is being pardoned and you don't know why they were pardoned, you just hear that Biden is pardoning X, Y, and Z, and then going back on what he said about his son, but you don't know the reason and you refuse to believe the reason, so you make up your own. Well, okay. But if you don't want them released, then the J6 can't be released either. You can't have it both ways. And that's why that farewell address was so important. That's why Joe Biden's farewell address was so important last night. That the fact that they ripped it to shreds goes to tell you that they are afraid. That they are afraid of the truth. They are so afraid of the incoming administration that that it's more important for them to keep their careers than to actually call out the hypocrisy and to call out the fascism and everything else because they don't want to piss off the bad man with threats. But it's important to understand the farewell address was a big, important message and likely a wake-up call. While it's too late now, we can still win our democracy back. We can still keep our freedom and our democracy in check. But we have to do our part. Because if we don't do our parts, the next 4 years is going to be worse than his first term. Because Donald Trump isn't in the office to be the president. He can care less about being the president. No. This, to him, is gaining power, getting revenge on everybody who's ever wronged him over the years, including Joe Biden. And he wants the United States to be in his image. He wants to be, look, Hitler tried it, Mussolini tried it, Lenin tried it, and it failed. They ended up, and it failed. Hitler wanted world domination. So did Lenin. And it failed. People like Facebook, they're getting rid of the fact checking. They caved in to Donald Trump because they don't want Donald Trump to go after them. At the end of the day, it's about making the master happy. And Donald Trump hates fact checking because he doesn't want to be called out on the truth, because his truth is the one he wants you to believe. And so the fact that Mark Zuckerberg is getting rid of fact checking, he's basically saying, we're going to be like Twitter. We'll allow all the right wingers onto Facebook, the ones we worked so hard to get rid of because we wanted Facebook integrity. We're now allowing them to come back on and spread whatever bullshit nonsense they want to spew. And that is basically dangerous because that means there'll be no more community notes, there'll be no more fact checking, and anything that's on Facebook, people will believe. Because if you tell a lie long enough, it becomes a truth. And it's wrong. It's wrong. And it's dangerous. People will get hurt. People will die. And people will end up doing things they're going to end up regretting, all because of a lie they believed was true. So listen, I implore you, everybody. I'm going to end with this. I implore you, listen to the speech again or watch the speech again. Understand what he's saying. Don't be biased. Don't be biased. You can tell the difference between right and wrong. You can tell the difference between reality and not reality. You can tell the difference between common sense and not. We all went to school. We all have educations. We all know our history. We all know how the government works, and if we don't, we learn about it. There's a reason why there's three branches of government, and there's a reason why Congress is a separate branch from the presidency, and there's a reason why the presidents have never told Congress what to do. That is why there is a Speaker of the House. Understand that. Donald Trump is saying things that he has no authority to do whatsoever. Forget the fact that it's also probably illegal. There's other ways to do it. You have Canada who wants to be, you have Canada who wants to be the 51st state. In order to do that, you have to do what Puerto Rico, did, which is vote, which Puerto Rico did, and they said no. But if you're a person of law and order, it's not but good for me, but not thee. It goes for everybody. So listen to the farewell address because Joe Biden did touch on many points. I thank him for his service, his 50 years of service. He does have integrity, and he will be remembered for that. I don't know what his legacy is just yet. Historians will figure it out, and then we can debate that. But until we know for sure, he was the president. He served 4 years. He gave 50 years of his life to serving the American people and his constituents. And he has now earned himself a well-earned retirement or being a private citizen. We don't know what he's going to do yet. Other than that, he gave us a warning, a stern warning. We need to heed that warning before it's too late. Because if we don't heed that warning, and if we let America fall, just like Germany fell, and just like Italy fell, and just like what's going to happen in Venezuela, if we let what happened in all those countries years ago happen to America, and if we lose it without protecting it, if we lose democracy, if we lose our freedom, and if we lose what we worked so hard for, to become or public, then what do you have?